But thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody. When we say things, episode 70. My name is Sunsfan. Joining me is the great, cultured Cinderin. Greetings, young man.
Hello, sir. Welcome to podcast episode 70, everybody.
Is that your
I
French
will not be
accent?
speaking. No, it's not. I don't know what that was. We're not going
You
to talk
should
like that
be a
anymore.
voice
Don't worry.
actor, Cinderin. Has anybody ever
Yes.
told you that before?
No, except myself, I think.
I'm going to give you the chance of a lifetime to voice a hero with me and Slacks.
Oh,
Are you excited?
I like it. I will do it.
The problem is it might have to just be your regular voice, unless you want to come up with something, I guess. But anyway, I have gotten so many complaints about what I'm about to talk about, Cinder, and that's the NBA.
Oh.
And the complaints are that I don't talk about it enough, actually, which is
Okay, can you guys fix your complaints? Here's my complaint. Your complaints are wrong.
Cinder, I think that deep down inside that you enjoy this talk because it enlightens you on a subject that you, sure, don't give a shit about, but something you know nothing about either. So in the back of your head, you're like, I like new information, even if it's about Kendall Jenner banging everybody in the NBA. Right?
Yes, especially that was really useful.
But before we get to the NBA talk, which I did not write that down, it was more of a surprise for Cinderin, let's do our patron shout-outs. Of course, everybody that's in the In Bruges tier will get a shout-out every single episode. So thank you to the following: Christopher Strong, T.I. in New Zealand, which, by the way, would be incredible, Zan Xavier, Sunsfan Pudge Omegalol. So can I ask you a question about emotes before we go further, Cinderin? Because I'm not as educated as you. Omega lol, does that just mean like lol times 2, essentially? Is that all it means?
It's a lol with a wide open, unnaturally open mouth. I can send you a picture of it. Haven't you seen it before?
Asking you what it. I'm not asking what it looks like. I'm asking what it means. It just means LOL times 2. Like it's a bigger LOL.
It's just a very big lol.
It just means very funny.
Very lol.
Okay. So I guess it's appropriate considering my Pudge win rate is 45% despite being my most played hero.
Pretty accurate.
Also, thank you to Nate Thicko01 Ham Scroats. Bacon.
I just described Twitch emotes to my mom.
It was a boomer moment, I won't lie. I'm not a big emote guy, guys. I'm sorry. Bacon. No, not that bacon. The other bacon. Okay. Should have read this one beforehand. Performing cock and ball torture in the middle of a football game. Okay. Thank you for that.
There has to be a story behind this one.
Yes. Tell us your story each week. Thank you to Lick, Shark TM, Hoey988, Freshly Seasoned Goat Balls, Change Will Happen, Poop Feast 420, and in an average lifetime, the average American receives 31 prank phone calls. Danes can't afford one. Thank you.
That's actually just the dumbest name. We had that last week too. It's so stupid. Ben Broomhead pronounces in Bruges as in Bruges. Ben Jackson pronounces it correctly. Dop, Villoy Chosnik Garlic, parenthesis Team Broomhead, Fane, _man. Ben Jackson is a known liar. Of course, Ben Broomhead pronounces in Bruges correctly, for he is tremendously and overwhelmingly cool. It's like a little bit of a disconnect there between the big words, and then it ends with cool. Pitch Black, Fellowship of the Ping, Terry Tip, Wooden Aftertaste, Dun Talk, The Coward, Dyslexic Lawyer, Anonymous, and Ronnie Keel to finish us off, as always. Thank you guys so much for being there every week as In Bruges tier for the podcast. And of course, like we like to say, if you guys are listening and you want to chip in and support the podcast, best way to do it, patreon.com/we say things. There's different supporting tiers where you can chip in and get something in return. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
For the love.
Now let's transition to what everybody's here for. The NBA, Cinderin. It's getting wild and crazy. I want to talk about one specific team. The Houston Rockets, okay? They have just been eliminated from the NBA playoffs. They have a very interesting storyline, okay?
What's their logo? First off, what is their logo?
It is actually not a rocket anymore. It's just an R that looks kind of like a rocket.
Was it ever salad?
What?
Isn't there a type of salad in the US called rocket?
I don't eat salad. Does it look like I eat salad? Actually,
Rocket
Caesar
salad. Is that
What?
arugula?
You just
Wait, what?
What are you talking about? Okay, I'm gonna continue this. Ugh, I don't even know how to get back on track after that horrible.
Rocket salad with balsamic dressing and shaved parmesan. That sounds delicious.
Anyway, the Rockets have been eliminated center by the much hated
It's
LA
a type
Lakers.
of lettuce
But
called arugula in the US and Canada.
Have you seen
rocket lettuce?
God, I hate you. Have you seen the player named James Harden? Do you know what he looks like? He has a giant beard. You have
lettuce?
Some people might think it looks like burnt lettuce. Sure.
James
Very
Harden.
ash.
I have seen this. Yes.
Okay.
It could definitely be eaten with some dressing.
So they're looked at as kind of the second version, if you want to call it, of the Phoenix Suns when we used to do a very high-paced offense. They're all about analytics. It's all about shooting threes. They have the weirdest culture in which, like, on the floor, all they do is shoot threes. They're undermanned. It's like that's it. It's brain dead, right? But it's very fast-paced. Undersized. Their tallest player is like 6'7", which means nothing to you, I'm realizing.
Undermanned sounds like a true challenge. You
like
play with less players than the enemy team.
You would be about the height of most of the players on their starting lineup. Let's just say that. That's pretty short for the NBA.
I'm tall. Hello?
For a normal person, you're tall.
Okay.
Anyway, their season ended, and they were actually they had a pretty decent chance of beating the Lakers. But as you know, they're in the bubble, Cinder, and something happened again in the bubble. One of their players, the sixth man, I can't even remember his name because doesn't matter at this point. He got in trouble because he invited a lady that was not on his list to come in the bubble to have sex with. Okay? Now, the reason this is a problem is because, first of all, he has a wife. And it became public knowledge to everybody that he invited this woman that was in his room for 3 hours. And as a result, he was just ejected from the bubble, and he didn't get to play any more games. And it really ruined the chemistry for the Rockets, or at least that's what they say. And they lost as a result. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think he's a fucking idiot. That's it.
All right. So that is
no offense, of course, to other idiots. He's probably worse than an idiot.
No offense to the adulterers.
Apologies
out there,
to idiots. This guy is worse.
Yes. So the Rockets are out. The Lakers are in the Western Conference Finals. God, it's gonna be bad when they win. That's gonna be one of the longest rants in We Say Things history. So with that, let's get started with the actual episode, which basically nothing happened this week. So we're gonna headline by. This would have been headline no matter what, actually. Sir Action Slacks, Cinderin, is having a baby.
He had sex with the right woman. Yay!
He had sex with a woman, his wife, of course.
The right woman.
That's right. He's not ejected from the bubble.
Correct.
And they are due, I believe, in December, I think he was saying.
Yep.
Now, do you know what the name of the child will be? It's a boy, by the way. This is not a joke. I had a conversation with him months ago, and at first I thought he was joking, but now it's official. Do you know the name of the child?
Give me the first letter.
T.
Please tell me it's not techies.
No, it's not techies.
Okay, good.
Well, keep in mind that his wife would have to agree to the name, so he had to go through some hoops to make it work the way he wanted, of course, right?
Tinkerbell.
No, it's a boy again.
Trash from NA.
Close. Anyway, the name, first name, and this is not going to sound funny at first, okay? I believe he said that his favorite. I don't know how much of bullshit this is. He said his favorite president was Theodore Roosevelt. Okay. AKA Teddy. So the name is Theodore, AKA Teddy. Middle name. Can you guess his middle name?
Give me the first letter.
R.
It would be really funny if it was Roosevelt.
It's not, it's not Roosevelt, although that would be perfect. So his dog's name is what?
Rue.
Okay, he did not name the son Rue, thankfully,
That
but
would have been funny.
it is a name that he uses for Rue at times, and that's how he got away with naming with the middle name in honor of his dog. Rexy, what's the next word that comes after Rexy? Also starts with an R.
Rexar.
No, it's actually just Rex.
Oh, okay.
So can you give me the initials now, or what his nickname should be in school? Can you figure this one out?
TR?
What's the nickname, though?
Theodore Rex. T-Rex. Oh, I see.
There you go, Cinderin. He did it.
God.
He's we got there in the end. He did it.
That is so Slacks.
Imagine growing up and your name is T-Rex. How fucking badass is that? That is amazing.
I was gonna,
that is
incredible. Sure if that was going to be your narrative, that it was badass.
You don't think it would be good? I feel like it would definitely.
I don't know. I kind of think bullies will find a way to bully about everything. So
but
the people that are your friends will think it's cool, and the people that think you're a jerk will make it uncool, right? No matter what your name is.
Can you make T-Rex uncool, though? It's the badass dinosaur of all time. Everybody loves T-Rex. It's not like you're thinking of Barney. That's technically
the most
a raptor.
Badass dinosaur of all time.
Yes. Well, if he lifts weights and has T-Rex arms, then he'll have a little bit of an issue, right? That's the only negative side to that. But that is amazing. So
somebody in chat just said if he has small hands, he will be bullied so hard.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to think ahead like that.
That's true. But we're trying to think positive here, Cinderin. All right, I'm really.
It's very Slacks-like though to put an Easter egg in his child's name.
Yeah, so the lore of his.
I mean,
son.
I personally like it. I think it's funny and cute, basically, to do something like that. So it's cool.
So congratulations to Slacks and his wife on the upcoming baby. He is, I believe he said he is going to be a stay-at-home dad for a little bit until, I think he said like March, so he'll be streaming a lot more.
Wait, so you said they already know it's a boy, right?
Yes.
So they didn't do some sort of stupid fucking gender reveal, right?
They did, I believe. Oh. I think he actually sent me a video, but it was super low quality. But he actually was telling me
gender reveals generally are, yes.
Right. Well, the gender reveal. So it's actually funny because there's two different cultures here. You know Slacks as we know him, and then his wife is just totally different, and she has her own crowd, and he has to kind of fit in with them at times. So something that he actually wanted to do for a gender reveal, but obviously was shut down, is have a balloon filled with the color of the baby, whether it's blue or pink in this case, right? He wanted it green, to surprise green. And then he would get really mad at his wife and claim that she slept with an alien or something like that. I can't remember the exact storyline, but it was going to be ridiculous. You bitch! Something along those lines.
God, man. Why would she shut that down? That's so good.
I mean, that would be good for a stream, but maybe in real life.
No, it would just be good in general.
All right. Anyway, congratulations to them. Looking forward to that baby. Playing a lot of techies, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So first thing on the agenda, Cinderin, in terms of this actually occurred while I was streaming last week before the podcast. So it's a little bit over a week now. But BSJ made a video talking about Dota culture, or NA Dota culture to be specific. So what happened was he was at Omega League and he was making some negative comments about certain. He was casting EU games, obviously, but kind of negging, as you want to call it, NA Dota a lot, right?
Right.
And he since has apologized for that. Because it upset a lot of people. But then he made this video, which I found really, really interesting. He says that he was wrong in kind of talking negatively about them, but at the same time, it was more out of frustration because he didn't realize how different playing EU pubs were versus NA, because he actually spent a lot of time in Ukraine. So he basically boiled down to NA culture is just super toxic, which if we've talked about this before, and it's always been a thing, but I think maybe a lot of times we encompass Dota as a whole as being toxic, but NA is definitely a different beast, right? You have a lot of
Um,
players with big egos. They give up early a lot in games, which is something he really broke down uh, in being a huge difference. Because you
mhm,
can be toxic in EU, but you still won't give up as often, at least, as NA. Breaking items, feeding down mid, and obviously
mhm.
the personalities in NA don't really help with that because they kind of perpetuate the toxicity. So, what were your thoughts
Yeah.
on this?
So I haven't played that much in NA, but I've played like at least a set of games. But I don't know if my sample size is really big enough. I don't know what his sample is in Europe at this point.
Basically, a month of
I would
Dota,
say,
right? He was there for a month.
first of all, like it's an average thing, right? It's about you play 10,000 games. Where do you have the better experience? I would definitely say I would expect to have the best experience in EU over NA for sure. For a couple of reasons. First of all, the average game is better, and that's because our player pool is much bigger. So the matchmaking algorithm can make games where the players are closer to each other in average skill, which means the chance of people getting frustrated with each other on average is lower because the game quality is just closer. Whereas in NA, let's say you have a smaller player pool, then you need to fetch more players that are not as good in order to generate games
Mm.
of a certain quality, right? Um, that is definitely a big part of the frustration in a lot of games, also in Europe, where people give up or get frustrated or break their items, whatever you want to call it. A lot of the times it stems from top 50 player has to lane with rank 1500 player. In top 50 player's mind, rank 1500 player made 3 or 4 crucial mistakes. Fuck this game, you know? Um, that is more likely to happen in NA. I think, at least my experience when playing there was that the games were very, very spread in MMR, just because of their lack of players. That's the first thing. Then the toxic nature. I mean, maybe I can't speak to this about like the overall cultural like attitude people have to video games. Like maybe there's something there. Um, People love scapegoating. I think from what I've heard or remember, like, people loved scapegoating the South Americans in NA in their pub games when the South Americans were queuing on their server.
Mm.
In Europe, people love scapegoating the Russians. And I think the common thing in those two cases is they speak a language you don't understand, so they become easy targets.
Yeah.
Um, they're just alien, you know? So then I think people have an easier time justifying treating them like shit, which is obviously stupid, but that's what people do. Um, I will say the biggest cultural difference I've noticed in Europe is, and this is definitely a cultural difference where there's a big disconnect. I think we've talked about this many episodes ago. I think Russian online culture, when it comes to language use, they throw around slurs that are more aggressive a lot more because I think part of the culture is cuss words are perceived less intensely. But then
Mm.
when you translate them and you use them in an international context, you come off as a massive asshole. Whereas in Russia, maybe you were just a regular asshole. Um, and that can make a pretty big difference. So I think that's something where there's a bit of a cultural disconnect. I don't know if there's something similar in NA. Don't know simply, but definitely not. It definitely doesn't make things better that there's this negative feedback loop, right? Where it's like it's a top-down thing. It trickles down. If the top of the top break their items, give up on stream or in their games, whether they stream or not, whatever. Like if the top people do it, it will spill down. And you can say it's not their responsibility. And there's like different arguments, right? Like, should they care about that? Isn't it people's own decisions that they should be making? Is it your fault if a 3K
Mm.
player breaks his items? Is it Mason's fault because he broke items on his stream once? You know, like people should be able to think for themselves and make their own decisions and have their own personalities. They don't need to copy. But obviously, there is a spill. Um, so I don't know. Overall, I would say when I've seen highlights or lowlights, whatever you want to call it, of NA where the game starts and people just teleport mid and feed and run down mid, that happens anecdotally way less frequently in Europe.
Right.
So I,
I'm
I
not
think
surprised by that
BSJ
at
is
all.
probably right, but I don't know which conclusion he came to what the cause of the problem is and how you fix it.
Well,
But I
I
do
have
agree.
a. I think he mentioned this as well, and this was my theory in addition.
Hmm.
NA culture, not even video games. I think NA culture is actually what NA American culture is kind of the problem, where and we're seeing it a lot more with like stuff that's going on politically, which we won't get into, obviously. But there is a certain level of ego and arrogance that a lot of Americans have, and I'm American, well, half, I
Mhm.
guess, but I lived overseas, so I can see a different perspective. So I definitely don't. I'm not on this. You know, I'm not somebody that's never left the country, which a lot of Americans are kind of in that boat. But
Right.
they they have it, it's like a holier than thou attitude. They feel like they're just better than people,
Hmm.
and that is, you know, not great. It comes off very toxic by nature, um, and I feel like that stems into. I mean, just look at pretty much. I know it's not for all of them, but pretty much any esport is NA in any of them, like just arguably or not is objectively the best. Like maybe Smash, but that is a whole shit show in itself of the issues they have. But
Yeah.
like any of these esports, is NA ever the best consistently
They were consistently no. In CS:GO, Team Liquid was the best for half a year, I think, but
for
they're
what
not the
game?
best anymore. No, in CS:GO,
Who?
Team Liquid were really
No.
good after the Astralis like insane year.
Okay, maybe
Team Liquid
maybe
started
okay.
being
I'm
really
a,
good,
I'm
I
gonna
think.
say this.
But
I've basically been in an FPS coma for the last decade, so I'm not gonna be up to
okay,
date. But I just remember Liquid being good for NA, but they were never the best. I could be horribly wrong. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure about
all
that.
right. And
But
then I don't know anything about Valorant. Maybe they're good at that, but
well,
like
they
the
seem
culture,
good, but
the
it's hard to
biggest
say how they
culture.
match up versus EU because of the corona. We can't really have lands
Yeah,
yet.
that's true. Um, But yeah, the biggest culture that NA has compared to Europe is definitely console. So I would imagine something like Call of Duty, you might be the best, or
Oh
fighting
God.
games. I think fighting games, just in general, not just Smash. When I watch that, there's a lot more NA players than Western. Oh yeah, when I say Western, I mean
Oh,
Europe.
we did a
Than Europe
LAN
players.
in where was it? Montreal. It was a Dota LAN, and I don't even think I was casting. I just visited just to have fun. But they
Mm-hmm.
had a Gears of War tournament there. That your Call of Duty thing reminded me of that. I have never personally seen more toxic behavior in my entire life. Gears of War, it's like a bunch of 14, 15-year-olds just using racial slurs, constantly screaming at each other across the room. Like, holy shit, man, that is mega toxic. Um, but anyway, back to the topic. Like, I came to the U.S. to live permanently. I'd been back and forth during the summer, so it's not like I'd never been to the U.S. But came to live permanently when I was 10, and it was a big culture shock. And a lot of it, which I didn't realize until a few years ago, maybe, was just the arrogant nature of people and the ignorance where they just feel like their culture is superior for some reason. I never understood that because I lived in a literal
Um,
third world country where I knew things weren't that great, but I appreciated, certain cultural differences between that and the U.S. or other places I visited.
do
But
you think it has something to do with the way you're raised in this patriot way?
yes, the
Like what
patriotism is
you're
weird. I find it
you
really weird.
think that is the prime root of this? If you want to talk about the root of the evil, if we want to call this an evil, there's a difference between being proud of your country and being an asshole about it, right? Like I, for
Yeah.
example, I love my country. I love Denmark. I think Denmark does a lot of things right. There's nowhere I would rather live than the country I live in right now. So I'm really happy with it. But that doesn't mean I have to belittle everyone else and feel like we're the greatest ever or whatever. Like we make mistakes and we do some things right. It's good for me. It's not the best country for everybody, right?
Mm.
Um, so I'm happy and proud of it, but it's not something I would, throw around like we're the best ever.
Well,
Every other
maybe it
country is
has.
stupid and
I
bad.
I've thought about this in the past as well, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but ever since World War II, I think the U.S. has been considered the I don't want to say best, the powerhouse of the entire world. Right? It's been
Right.
basically like
The
80
cultural
years of
powerhouse for
that.
sure. Like it's
And I
inspired
feel
so
like
much.
that kind of gets into people's heads
Mhm.
after a while, right? Like I'm sure, I
Yeah.
mean, everybody that was in that war is basically dead or just mega mega old at this stage. So you don't have the same perspective. I mean, we've lost, like, the Vietnam War was a complete disaster. We literally lost that, but people don't really. I mean, if you ask a random American what happened in the Vietnam War, they'll think that we just got sick of it, or they have never even heard of it. I mean, there's who knows at this stage, but
Yeah.
it's just weird. It's just a weird mentality that I never truly understood. Now we're starting to see it, come to forefront, and I feel like it does spill into esports a bit. This ego, where you're thinking you're just better than people, and it's weird. I don't know. The problem is I don't
But
even know
again,
how you would fix that at this state.
it's something to remember that it's always about the individuals, right? If you're from NA, you're not by default an asshole, and you're not by default full of yourself and have the biggest ego ever for no reason. And just like players from Europe vary on a huge spectrum of mega ego to almost no ego, right?
Mm.
So, like, it's again, I'm just thinking about the average. Like, is it just because we have a few select people that are very much in the spotlight that are doing things that we think are a problem or have big egos or whatever, and then that misrepresents the region entirely because the pool, like we talked about, is relatively small, so very few people can skew it a lot, whereas Europe is really big in terms of players, so you get a more broad variety, or is there genuinely a bigger problem here? Like, I don't know. It's just it's easy to say and point to 2 or 3 examples. If let's say top NA Dota is 100 people and top Europe Dota is 1,000 people,
Mm.
then a few bad eggs will poison the smaller pool a lot more, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, like, if how much worse it actually is. Like, we're painting it like this huge cultural picture that's terrible compared to whatever. But like,
Well, I think it's.
I
I
I
would
feel like it's kind of, yeah. Go ahead.
no. I would just say I feel very strongly, and I know I'm not a big fan of blanketing statements, but on average, if you
Hmm.
if you take an American versus pretty much anybody else, any other country, uh, chances are the American's going to be a little bit more ignorant, less open-minded, and I think
Hmm.
that kind of spills over into every aspect of life, um, which is it's sad, especially considering that you're right. Like from a culture's perspective, at least for the last God knows how many years, we've been the forefront of everything. Like in terms of like Hollywood, uh, esports is very global. That's the beautiful thing about it. I think just being open
Yeah,
to other cultures really helps. And for whatever reason, I think the average American just doesn't travel. You know, but
pretty expensive, I guess.
you can go to Mexico or Canada. I mean,
True.
it's something.
True.
But yeah. Anyway, so I don't really have a solution to this. I feel like it's too far gone. I'm maybe a little jaded in this subject, but NA Dota feels. I mean, even in Han, it was kind of the same thing. It's not like it's changed. 10 years ago, it was literally the exact same thing, but in a different game. Just super toxic, holier than thou attitude and whatnot.
I think what gives a better view on it is if you had like a subset of people. Let's say you had 10 people play 1,000 games in NA and 1,000 games in Europe, and then give their verdict, right? Because this is one person talking about his experience for a couple of weeks, and he might very well be right. I'm not saying he's wrong, but it's obviously there's quite a lot of pros that play both EU and NA. Like Arteezy practiced a lot on Europe because he needed to play Europe tournaments from NA now during the Corona lockdown. He was playing in the Omega League. Um, I think players like Zai and Crit have played a lot of both EU and NA pubs, so it'd be really interesting to hear some more perspective. Like, I can give my 2 cents, but I think the number of total games I've played on NA servers is probably less than 50. So
Hmm.
it's like it's so easy to just have a couple of bad experiences and this just be like, this sucks, right? Um, or be lucky and have a lot of great games, and then that's also a misrepresentation. So, but it's an
And
interesting topic. I think
yeah,
if we have multiple people who played a lot in each region, kind of like talk about it and figure out what the problem is. The question is, what can we do about it? Like, can Valve do anything? Is it something we can do in the game, or is it all outside? Man, I need
yeah, I have no idea if there's
to.
ever. I mean, if there's a solution, it's not like it's a quick fix either way, right? But I was just thinking about this. I didn't realize this until now, but I think the reason, like, when I'm a fan of somebody, whether it's a basketball player, even a Dota player, anybody, the biggest quality that even friends, Cinder, and you're a great example of this, the thing that I rank the highest on my tier list of qualities in a person is they're being humble by nature. Like, if I go back to my favorite players of all time, Steve Nash, which you've heard of, he's just so
Mhm.
different than every other player because he's very humble. He wants to help everybody. He wants to be a team player. And I think the
GH.
reason, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of Dota players that are like that, but
Yeah, there are quite a lot of Dota players actually. Interestingly enough, in contrast to what we just said.
yes, not an NA though. That's for damn sure. But I think that's the reason that I value that so much is because it's something that lacks in the American culture in general. Like, that's not something you see very
Mhm.
often. Somebody just
I
being
could see
humble.
that.
So yeah, interesting. I didn't realize that until now. But anywho, moving on to the next topic. SCCC is taking a break. Cinder, I'm just going to read a quick quote from an article. SCCC, his former team Aster, announced last month that the player decided not to renew his contract with the organization. And with many of the top contenders from the Chinese scene also undergoing roster changes, the fans were expecting to see him in a new jersey this month. However, in a stream session from last night, he announced that he will actually take a competitive break as his negotiations with a new team reached a deadlock. He didn't disclose the names of those who he negotiated with, but he said that parts involved could not reach a compromise. Obviously, we don't really have that much information.
Mhm.
Can't say I'm too surprised, considering there's no DPC plan in place as of yet. So
Right.
there's no real reason to be employing players for teams if they're not under contract already, right? That's the way I look at it, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's also the wording could mean multiple different things, right? It could mean that he was trying to negotiate a higher salary than they were willing to pay him. So it was from an org perspective. It could be that he was in talks with teams, but they found another player that fit better with their ideology. Um, if it just says negotiations like that, especially if it's translated from Chinese, right? Like we can speculate what this actually means. Um, but one thing's for sure: when SCCC is on, he's really fucking good, and I'm pretty sure we'll see him later on next year, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the worst time to take a break. I think something that it's in the article too is that he's going to move to another city that's cheaper. He hasn't spent his money from TI. What was it? TI 7 that newbie got second. Hasn't bought a house or anything, and he's just been living in Shanghai, which has been expensive. So he wants to save up some more cash, which is a wise move. Nothing wrong with that.
Yes, that's what people
Um,
should do,
yeah.
but often do not.
But yeah, don't know. It's kind of the reason I'm a little bit uncertain about the wording is that we don't really hear many stories out of China like that, where a player was not signed by a team and therefore takes a break because the contract could not be reached,
Mm.
like terms that both sides agreed to. It's so unprecedented that it just makes me wonder if that's the case. Like maybe it happens a lot and we just don't hear about it, and it's because it's SCCC who had really high demands, and then it's a special case because of that. But considering we have tons of stars in China that have played for many different orgs in the last year or two, this is kind of an outlier for
Can you
me.
say that word
So I don't
again?
know.
TON.
Ton?
It's interesting. Very interesting pronunciation, Cinder.
What do you say?
Ton.
Ton.
What do you say for WON?
One.
One. So
I
I
won a ton of tunnels.
wait. Say WON again.
One. Just like the number one.
Okay, so you say one, but you say
Yeah.
ton. That's interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. One ton.
I like wontons. I'm not gonna lie, they're delicious.
Mm.
It's just that's one of those things that it's usually Asian. Like Brax, my girlfriend, a bunch of friends that I've had in the past, they've said wan and ton, and I've said one and ton, and we're both blown away that it's that people use both ways. But you
Right.
mix and match. Very interesting, Cinderin. I like it. You've stolen from every culture, it seems.
Yeah. I'm a thief. A
The
cultural
Danish
thief.
way.
Because I'm from Denmark. We don't have our own. So we need to take it from others.
Uh,
Basically what the Vikings did.
that is true. It's in your blood.
Yeah.
So the Battle Pass ends on September 19th, which, as of this recording, is in 4 days. Where's the Immortal 3? Will the deadline for the Battle Pass be extended? What's going on to this thing? What's Valve going to do here? Huh? You tell me, Syndrome. What's happening with this? Give me the inside info, buddy.
I hate you. I hate you.
Give me that inside info, please.
uh,
Thoughts?
Well, we obviously have no idea. I'm assuming Immortal 3 will be coming out today or tomorrow, most likely.
Oh, so you do have inside info. Good. Thank
No,
you.
I don't. I'm just assuming.
Ice Frog,
It's
if
just
you're watching this,
it's
he
a
leaked
feeling.
your conversation
But
live on
will
podcast.
the deadline be extended? I don't know. Like, I find this whole situation to be like it's awkward and it's frustrating and it's interesting at the same time. It's like it's awkward because we don't really know what's going on and both sides are kind of like the community especially is writing a lot of shit at Valve and Valve are just staying quiet for the most part. And
Yeah.
it's frustrating because I have to read through so much of this. Like there's so many I don't know if frustrating is the right word actually. I don't really
Well, it's
mind
not like
that much.
anything
But there's
else is
just a
happening. Let's be real.
there's just a lot of drama about this
Yeah, there is.
that could be, talking about maybe other things in Dota than that,
Mm.
but this is what people are focused on, which is very telling, of course. Um,
Oh, there's posts about the new
and
player
then the whole
experience, but
deadline thing is really like
it's been extended already, right? This is like 2
it's been
weeks later
extended
than before, I think.
already. I think Immortal 3 was supposed to come out last week on Friday or something, right? Wasn't that what they said that they were aiming for that? Or am I mixing it up with something else?
I don't remember. They just said in a couple
So,
weeks, whenever that was.
okay. If they didn't give like an expected time, then people are just making up their own expected times in their minds and then they're disappointed
Mm.
when it's not there when they thought it should be there,
Right.
basically. Um I don't know. I feel like this battle pass there's just some question marks. Like stuff is getting released almost at the end at this point. Um what are they going to do with the prize pool for the following TI? They've announced that they're expecting TI to be in August next year. What's the next battle pass going to be? What are the ideas? Maybe they don't have to answer that, but like this battle pass just has this, uncertainty to it in many ways.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the thing that's for certain is that this battle pass's prize pool does go to the upcoming TI. Um, but yeah, we've talked about like what's happening with the next one. I guess that's beside the point.
Do you think it should be extended or do you not care? So I think the argument behind extending it is,
mhm.
let's say they come out with it like a day before. You open a bunch of chests and then you don't really have much time to level up
Right.
more if you want to get more, or if you want to, put a little bit more money in to
Yeah, I mean
give
it's
to
definitely in
Valve.
their own interest to extend it, right?
Right. I mean, they've made.
I would think
We
so.
already
At
broke
least
the
by a
record,
week. Like you
right?
can extend it for too long, I suppose, but uh yeah. Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they have to announce something this week, obviously.
Is Treasure 3 the only thing missing? They didn't do a Trove
I
this
think
year
so.
because
Yeah, they
there was
said
no
no
TI.
Trove. I mean, everything. The announcer pack was like the last one before the Immortals, right? So it's
Yeah, and that came
basically
out
done.
more than a week ago. I think.
Yeah. So that should be it. Okay. Well,
I
we'll
think the
have to
reason
wait and
Immortal 3 isn't
see.
out yet is that they're spending a lot of time and energy on the new player experience.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If you say so. Uh, next thing. Hey, if they come out with a new, okay, if they come out with Immortals tomorrow, people are gonna stop
Mhm.
complaining for what? 24 hours less. There's gonna be threads about the new player experience. Like,
Yep.
God knows what else they're gonna come up with. So it's just at this rate. Now, actually, this is an interesting question. Not to extend this conversation, do you think listening? So we both agree that Valve listens to Reddit. That's
Of
their
course.
main source. Do you think
Yeah.
that's a net negative or positive? Because now it's become very whiny, right? Which is kind of what people
Yeah.
expected years ago. And it's not like they're trying to hide it anymore. They're definitely reading Reddit all the time and taking their criticism to heart.
Right.
Is it a good or a bad thing overall?
I think it's case by case, which sucks but I mean, it's just natural, right? I think in some instances, Reddit thinks it knows a lot more than it does. And in
Mm.
other instances, it actually might know as much as it thinks it does.
Mm.
Like, depending on the topic, I think one of the things you just said, which was really important, is that it's become so whiny, right? I was going to ask you or talk about the same thing that I wish the feedback was way more in a constructive nature and less as an entitled and whiny nature. Because I really
Mm.
feel like the discourse has changed over the last like multiple years on the subreddit where it used to be constructive feedback and discussing not necessarily no memes or, I like the memes. I like that Reddit's having fun and it's fucking around and it's not like a super serious forum for only very well formulated constructive feedback. Like it's fine that there's something that's edgy and whiny and some sort of memes, but it's just overwhelming at this point how many posts are just flat out complaints. It's just complaints, complaints, complaints.
So
What
how
ends
much?
up happening is, I think for a lot of Valve people, you have to make the choice. Do you read through all of this whining every day to get your feedback, or you just like fuck it, Like imagine that's your work day and you come in as a programmer or whatever here and you're
Mm,
trying to figure out what the community wants, and it's just 100 different threads of people whining about different things that aren't in the game that you aren't working on. You're doing a bad job. This is what you should be doing. How is it possible this isn't finished? How are you not doing this, that, blah, blah, blah. And I know then we're back to the classic discussion of, do Valve not have enough people working on this game, internal structure, whatever. Um, but do you feel the same way? Like, if you thought
to
back some years that the threads, like the quality on average, was just better?
so there is a level of entitlement, but I think it does go a little too far, but I think some of it is warranted because
Sure,
we are
that's what I'm
funding the
saying.
battle pass, right? So
Right.
it's not like
So there's some things.
if they were working on some other game mode for some other event that wasn't like funded by the battle pass, then I
Mhm.
think it would be way overboard what the community is doing. But that's not really the case, right?
Right.
But you're right; it's become a little too negative lately. That's for damn sure. But I also think that stems from the fact that there's just no communication. So what else can you do but
Right.
complain? Like if you had a community
But
manager, that wouldn't I feel like that wouldn't be if anything, the negativity would be directed to the community manager. It's one person taking the fall,
there's
right?
different
In
ways
theory
of
at least.
complaining, though, right? That's what I mean. Like, I think people are completely in the right in complaining if they are paying for stuff and it's not being delivered or it's being in poor quality, just like the Roshan statuettes last year or 2 years ago or whatever, right?
Mm.
Where it was different than advertised. Um, I've just found that lately the tone is just so. It's like people are trying to rally against Valve and slay the demon or something. A lot of people are like,
Uh,
the number of posts that I read lately with Valve should just let other people run the game. They don't know what the fuck they're doing anymore. Like like just get somebody else to do it, or just do this, just do that. Like it's really simple and not a problem. Whatever. Uh,
I mean, it's
and then
kind
you
of
have
the
the other side of
issue.
people that say Valve can do no wrong, which is just as bad. That are like, no, it's fine. Blah blah blah. It's somewhere in between, right? They're making mistakes and
Mm.
they're doing some things right, but people love to be extremely polarized on it. Like literally, Valve is like literally Hitler or literally God in some people's minds, and they don't hesitate to talk about that.
The grass is always greener, though, right? And I've actually
Yeah.
found myself being a little overly negative about Valve as well, especially since Riot released Valorant, because I've been playing the shit out of that game, as we've talked about many a time.
Hmm.
And I really like the approach that Riot is taking because it's completely and utterly different than Valve, but it comes with its negatives as well, right? Like the fact that you have to either grind or buy agents to be able to play them. That's completely stupid and ridiculous. The fact that they come out with patches, like for example, Dota might have an imbalance here, imbalance there. Typically
Hmm.
speaking, there's not a hero that's going to be completely and utterly broken for literal months. I feel like that doesn't really happen. Like
Hmm.
beyond belief overpowered. Obviously there's going to be overpowered heroes, but for Riot it just feels like everything is like a month delayed in just very basic balance things that you could fix in literally a day. Uh
Because they have to press out so much so fast, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have bureaucracy issues, right? Because you got a million people working there. So it's actually the
Yeah.
opposite issue of Valve. So, I mean, I've been saying, you and I have been saying this for years. I wish Valve was in between what Valve is and what Riot is. That would be the perfect balance. You get the best of both worlds in theory, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but ain't happening. So,
Well, is there a game studio that is that?
I mean, if you look at Blizzard, they're the literal worst of both categories. So, I don't. Is Epic.
Maybe it's just impossible.
I
They
don't know how
just
Epic
can't run
is. I
it.
won't lie. I don't know anything
You
about
can't
Epic,
do it.
but there's
Um,
probably somebody, but not nobody that's enormous. Like EA,
right.
they're garbage. They're the biggest money grubbers of all time. Trying to think of any others. But anyway, that's a story or a topic for another day. Let's move on to non-Dota related stuff. Twitch, apparently, I'm going to read their tweet, Cinderin, from Twitch support. Starting today, we'll be testing automated mid-roll ads for some viewers. These ads will directly support the creator and won't run if the viewer has had an ad break in that channel recently. Your feedback is welcomed to help shape this feature. This sounds god-awful.
Yes.
God-awful. What were they thinking? So I have a theory of why this is happening. I think they signed like a giant... I'm going to butcher the terminology here. I think they signed a giant contract years ago with ad agencies, maybe. Basically, what populates like the advertisements on the channel, right? And as a result of that, they forced or tried to enforce streamers to put ads up all the time, which a lot of people still don't do, myself included. The smaller channels at least. But now this is a way to force them to do that, and of course, I can't imagine this not happening in the middle of action at times. Like, how do they even program that to not be the case? It sounds horrible.
So, okay, since we both agree this is terrible, let's talk about what you could do instead if you feel like, as Twitch, the streamers need to run more ads. Like, what are better strategies? Because clearly, this will suck. People are watching a channel live. There's about to be something cool happening. The streamer hasn't played ads for an hour or an hour and a half, whatever. And now it just slaps on an automated ad in the middle of action. And people are going to fucking hate it. And who does it reflect poorly on is not just Twitch. It reflects poorly on the streamer, too.
Yeah. A lot of people will not know that it's automated.
They won't know. And it's just, it's just a bad look overall. It's just bad. So I think there's a couple of options that you can do. Twitch could, for example, if they want to be aggressive with this, they could give a notification to the streamer saying you have to play an ad in the next 5 minutes. Then the streamer himself can choose, okay, this is the moment where I feel like within my control, I can predict that this is the best time to run an ad. And you can tell people in advance that it's coming, right? That's already an improvement, that it doesn't just get slapped on for no reason. A less aggressive way is to give like how Dota does. I don't know if you know this, but if you play Dota in China, it will give you a warning from time to time how long you've been playing, because they have like government regulation to warn you that you don't play too much.
Yep.
You could have something like that pops up on your dashboard. Where it's like, you have not played an ad for an hour. Remember to play ads. I think that already would go a long way. It would do something for me, for example. I think I would play more ads if I got a reminder. It's also a conscious choice a lot of the time that I'm not playing ads, but at the same time, sometimes I just don't think about it as much as I should, probably, for my own sake. So that's something you could do. What else could you do?
So I agree with that general sentiment, but it does come with its complications. Number one, what if you don't have your dashboard open? Like, they'd need to integrate this into OBS, into XSplit, into literally every program that people use. That's the first requirement. And the second issue is, what if you're doing a 2-hour podcast? How do you schedule ads around something like that where there isn't an ad break for something like our show? And it would just come in the middle of a topic or whatever the case may be. Like, how do we delay it till the end or whatever,
Yeah.
There's weird little instances that don't make sense to have ads all the time.
I guess what Twitch would want was for the podcast to have a break. Like, you would actually throw to a break, which, on radio channels or whatever, sometimes you would go to a break and then come back.
Right. It's possible, but then you have to change the format of your show.
Yeah.
For the VOD, it kind of fucks things up, right? I don't know. It's really weird, but it sounds like they absolutely have to do this in order to meet their quota. That's what I'm taking from this.
I mean, it says they're testing, so I'm kind of hopeful that this doesn't just, regardless of outcome of the test, just
who's randomly chosen though, Cinderin?
I don't know.
How angry would you be finding out that you're the one randomly chosen? That would suck.
Well, at least you make some money. But yeah, I've seen some of the feedback on the tweet already, with people saying I was in the middle of a quiz and it played an ad, and therefore the viewers that weren't that got that ad were at an inherent disadvantage because they couldn't answer the question because they got an ad in the middle of my quiz. And then they missed the question. It's like that kind of stuff's just like what the fuck? Like imagine that on a TV show, right? There's a TV quiz and you're playing for something in this quiz. There's just an ad that comes up, and when you come back, the question's over and you lost. Like, what
Yeah, get wrecked, noob.
People will be fucking furious.
This is why people use ad block.
They'll be furious.
Like, are we shocked? Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, so what I'm wondering is Twitch, they have to know that this is bad, right? Like when they implement it, there's no way that whoever decided to push this doesn't know what the potential complications are and how it will affect streams. They know that. So that's a little bit of a bleak outlook. Why are you running with it anyway then? Is it forced? Is it min-maxing profit? Or do you want to try to run the most, almost considered like a stress test to see how far you can go and then push back? I think that just gives you more negative PR than anything, right? Like, why not start with a softer version then? Maybe in their minds this is a soft version because it's not implemented for everybody, but people are going to hate this. The streamers are going to hate it. The viewers are going to hate it. Don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's just a quota thing. They have to do.
Hope I didn't get chosen.
Yeah, God help us all. Next topic: Xbox Sex and Xbox S are going to be coming out November 10th. Cinderin, the Xbox S is a new edition. It was actually leaked, and they had to rush out an announcement about it. It is super tiny and white, and apparently one of the guy that heads the Xbox department had it in the background of one of his videos he made months ago as an Easter egg. It's not going to have a disk drive at all. It's going to have less memory, and I think, although I couldn't 100% confirm because I didn't do my due diligence on it, it's going to be a little bit less powerful than the Xbox Sex.
How much cheaper is it going to be?
It is going to be
right?
Let me double check. I believe it's
$299
$299.
and X is $499.
Yeah. Yes. And this is what I did not understand. So the Series S will likely be offered as part of a $25 per month Xbox All Access financing option. What does that mean to you? Does that mean you're paying off the console, or is that an additional, like, your gold membership, your live, whatever it's called?
I'm assuming that you can choose it as a subscription where you get the console and you get access to games as a subscription.
You just keep paying the $25 a month forever, essentially.
Yeah, probably.
Interesting.
And as long as you're subscribed, you own the console and you get access to more and more games. They've probably done quite a lot of research on this. It's common with things for people to lease everything from a washing machine to a car, right? So they were like, why don't we lease our console and games? There's a good chance that this is actually a good business move. Whether I like it or not, I don't know. But there's a good chance that there's a decent amount of people that would use a system like that because they feel like, I don't want to shell out $300 right now, but I can do $25 a month.
No, I can understand. I don't think I've ever seen that before for a new console.
It's pretty unprecedented for video gaming in general, right? We don't have that. You don't really have that with any console, like you said, or any game. Like, we have subscriptions in MMOs, for example. So I guess that's the closest there is.
Yeah. For show. Yeah. Okay, well, I can't wait for that console to come out so we can talk about the Xbox Sex some more, Cinderin. Very excited indeed. And then the last topic, just a little casual thing. Apparently, alien life has potentially been found on Venus, Cinderin. It's not been 100% confirmed. So I read about this a bit. Overall, it's a great way to see if there's life somewhere by being able to trace a thing called phosphine, which is on Earth is a gas we can only make in the lab artificially, or it's more typically one that is found via organic matter. So it's kind of like a sign of life. They believe they found traces of this in the clouds of Venus, Cinderin. Very exciting. I'm not sure how long it's going to be till they actually confirm. But my question to you is, if this is confirmed, obviously it's not like, an intelligent life form or anything like that. If it's confirmed that this is the first life ever found from us outside of Earth, What kind of effect would this have on society, on the public, if any?
What life though, right? If there's a
What
little bit
life?
of dust that says that there used to be or is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think the thing that would really be a huge thing is if we found intelligent life,
All right, that's
right?
a separate question. Forget that for a
Right.
second. We're gonna get to it.
Yeah. But you were asking what the reaction will be.
Yeah.
I don't think it's obviously going to be a milestone because it's the first time, but I don't think it will change a lot. It will probably change funding for
Yeah, I agree with
more
that.
research because it gets really it's exciting what we can find, but in the public eye to the average person, I don't think this is that big of a difference. I don't know. Some people really care about this. They're like, if there's
For sure.
literally the sign of any sort of any life anywhere, it's huge. And then there's others that are probably looking for aliens, right? Actually sentient beings. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty exciting because who knows? If there's a speck of whatever and it can lead to something, then that end result is really exciting.
Right.
And just some sort of confirmation that we're not the only ones. But I think we've talked about this before, right? You and I both think very strongly that there is sentient life somewhere else, right?
100%, of course.
In the universe.
Yeah,
When
no
you
brainer.
consider all the factors, how huge the universe is and everything. What are the odds that we're the only ones?
0%.
But having traces of life inside our solar system, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, that means life is
because I think
way
that
more
was very
common.
likely that there would not be found.
Yeah. No,
So
I think the reaction, I agree with you, will be lukewarm at best. If you remember, I consider it a big deal that water was found elsewhere,
right.
but apparently nobody, it's from the public perspective, nobody gives a shit. I thought that
They
would
just
be a
want the
huge
aliens from the
celebration.
movies to be real,
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
or to not be real.
I think the last point you made was really, really good. The fact that let's just assume that this ends up being actual life forms, or whatever you want to call it, basic life found in a planet in our own solar system is incredible, because that means life is actually not that uncommon. So, not that there was any question in my mind and a lot of people's minds that there's going to be intelligent life somewhere out there. But obviously, the next question is, what kind of reaction would there be if intelligent life was found? I feel like we've talked about this, but
yeah, that would be
always fun.
else.
Let's say tomorrow we found out that there was, obviously the context is going to be really important, right? How we found out, if we're able to communicate. Have you seen? I was going to ask you if you saw a movie, but of course not. What is that movie called? Arrival. Amazing movie. If you guys like the space type movies that are more realistic in nature, not like Star Trek, Star Wars type things like Interstellar, The Martian, incredible movies. Anywho, that one's really cool in particular because it talks about the language barrier.
Maybe I actually have watched this.
Oh my God!
Have I?
Arrival. Have you seen Arrival? I just want to hear yes to anything at this stage. Please say it to me. It has what's her face in it. I'm sure you recognize her. Never remember her name. Redhead.
No, I don't think I watched it.
Okay, just fucking.
I don't think so. It was just reminding me of a movie I probably watched on a plane.
You've never seen any movie. I know the truth of the matter here. Anyway, I think it would be a disaster to find life on intelligent life. I think we would fall apart, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think after seeing what's happening now in just the U.S., okay, I can't speak for the world. All right, maybe people are more logical. I feel like
the U.S. is already alien life.
The U.S. would just implode. I feel like there's just so much stupidity in general in this country right now that I didn't know existed before. But holy shit, it would not be good for us, I feel. How would it be in Denmark? Would people look at it like a logical human being, like you, robots? Like, oh, very nice to meet you, alien. Is that how it would go?
I'm a robot? Okay. I mean, I
That was a
guess to an
compliment, by the
extent.
way. It's good to be a
Yeah,
robot
okay. I
sometimes.
appreciate it. I think if that is what humans consider a compliment, then I appreciate it. Um, how would people react to there being intelligent life? I think the first thing would probably be curiosity. I don't think it would be like fear as much as it would be curiosity.
Really?
Probably.
That
Yeah.
there's okay, in America, 100%. I am 100% sure that is the opposite. Are you sure about that?
I mean, I don't know. Like, if we discover other life, does that mean they discover us? You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, the context, right. It
Like, I
does.
think
Yeah.
people would be more like, oh, there's alien life found. That's amazing. Like, what do we know about them? Have we communicated with them? Where do they live? What things are different? Can we learn anything from them? Stuff like that, I think.
Hmm.
Would probably be more of a thing to talk. I mean, obviously, people would be talking about the other side of it too. Like, are they going to attack? Like, of course, you're going to imagine that scenario and think about it. But I don't think the predominant first thing would be we have discovered alien life somewhere, prepare the nuclear launch. I don't
Hmm.
think that would be. We don't have nukes,
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't have nukes
so
anyway, so you
we
can't have
can't do it
that.
anyway. But yeah, I don't know. My first reaction to it would definitely be curiosity, but I can't speak for everyone. Like, I would just be super curious. Like,
Right. I don't know
holy
what my
shit,
first reaction would be, but one of them would be curiosity, obviously. I think it would be really cool. Okay.
Okay, different question before we
Oh,
finish off
okay.
on this topic. Imagine this. This is my mailbag question for you, Shannon.
Oh, yes. Good, good.
Imagine we discover an alien life form that can communicate with us.
Hmm.
You can send them one thing to illustrate our lifestyle. What would you give them?
Omega lol.
Okay, serious answer.
One picture, you said?
No, you can send them a thing, right? They're like, how do you guys live on Earth? And you can send them a thing in return. So,
What do
like,
you mean a
you were
thing?
to illustrate to
Anything?
somebody who's never been on Earth before what life on Earth is like, what thing would you send to illustrate it?
Wow. I guess a plant? I don't know.
Hmm,
I mean, plant
that's
is kind
interesting.
of the root of everything, it feels like.
Because my choice would be totally different, but
Okay.
I don't know if I'm thinking about it right. I would send a smartphone. I think actually,
Oh, I see. So technology.
I just feel like
I was
that's
thinking more basic
so
principles as opposed
telling
to
about our lifestyle, right? Like, it says more about how humans are and behave than a plant does. I think, which says more about what the planet is like.
right.
So I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. One thing. That's quite the restriction, Synderen.
Yeah,
And
it's
they would
like
send us a
you go
big
to an
blob.
island, you can bring one thing. Those questions are always so stupidly hard, right? But I just found it
Hmm.
interesting, like
Oh,
even
I
just
know
the
what I would send.
just the
Okay.
thought experiment
I
of
know what I would send.
imagining somebody knows nothing about the world, and you had
Hmm.
to show them the world somehow.
So a
That is
smartphone is
just stupid.
it's kind of the same thing, but I
Hmm.
was thinking it would actually be more targeted if it was like a Kindle and it had like a bunch of uh, you know, freaking like textbooks, I guess, about our
Hmm.
history. I
Right.
don't know how they would translate it, but that would
Yeah.
definitely be one of the things I would consider. Like smartphone is just like you know, it's not like they're gonna have internet over there. They can't look at anything. But a Kindle, you can
Could
store
have
it.
pictures on it. Could have books on it.
That's true. You could put. I mean, you could put pictures on a Kindle technically. But okay, I like it. All right. All right. Let's finish with a Patreon mailbag question from Ted. Uh, what is the most recent meal at a restaurant that you had? What was it, and was it good? Would you like to go first?
Yeah. So I think the last thing I had at a restaurant was Italian. And man, what did I have? I remember the dessert because it was weird and it was the first time I ever had that. So I'll start with that. The dessert I had was a semifreddo. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No.
It's it's an Italian dessert that's like half frozen, basically. That's what it means.
Hmm.
So it's not like frozen solid, but it's very, very cold, and cutting into it takes a bit of effort, unlike a regular.
Is it a
cake.
spiral? Does it look like a
No,
spiral?
I mean I don't know. I guess there's like different ways of presenting it.
Okay.
It's like a I don't even know how to explain. That's what's so weird. It was like kind of a cake with
What's it
I think it
called
was
again?
pistachios and chocolate and
What's the name again?
Semifreddo, Freddo. You can look it up. I guess that will be a better explanation for you. It's hard to explain. I found it very different actually than other desserts I've had.
Okay.
What did I have as my main? Oh yeah, I had a pizza. A 4-cheese pizza. Very nice.
Wow, very original, Cinderin.
Yeah, well, I generally don't have that.
This is making
but I
me
want it.
incredibly hungry, but I actually don't remember because we have not been to a restaurant, like sit-down restaurant,
Oh yeah,
since
true.
before Corona. Like it has been literally since February.
Damn. What are all the restaurants doing? Are they just closing?
No, they do takeout. People do takeout all the time.
And they can survive on that?
I
All of them?
guess. I don't know. I doubt it. I
Wow.
bet a bunch of them have probably gone out of business. But I'm just gonna say what my favorite meal is,
Mhm.
which is a restaurant. It's called. There's a few different locations in Arizona, but it's called the Santan Brewery. It's, believe it or not, a burger, Cinderin. It is the best. If you come visit, I will 100%. That's a requirement that we go have this
Oh.
burger. It's literally the best burger I've ever had in my life. And I'm going to read the ingredients. It's not going to, I don't even know if this sounds good, but it is. Oh, my mouth is watering just thinking about it. Sacred stave whiskey glaze, cheddar cheese, bacon, fried onion straws, horseradish pickles, horsey sauce, and the best fries
Horsey
I've
sauce?
had as well in my entire life. I don't know what horsey sauce is, but it's delicious. Okay. It's made of
horsey sauce
jizz
sounds
or
like something.
Yeah.
Sounds like a cop out because if they said what the ingredients actually were, they would be out of business.
Yes.
Horsey sauce.
It's not horse semen. I know that I'm pretty sure it's not horse semen, but if it is, highly recommend it either way.
Okay.
So yeah, it's legitimately the best burger I've ever had, and I miss it gravely. Can't wait for Corona.
Did you used to go there frequently, or?
So that's the thing. I didn't want to ruin it, right? If I eat somewhere too often, I ruin it. So we would go like maybe once a month.
Oh, that's frequently for me.
But that's pretty frequently still. I have not had anything else on the menu because it's just too good. It's too good.
So you've only had the burger there?
Yes, that's correct.
Damn.
Yeah, we'll go there someday, Cinderin.
Sure.
Someday in the future when you're allowed in this country and you want to visit and you've watched In Bruges, because that will also be a requirement before you come here. So, speaking of In Bruges, have you seen it?
No.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Visit.
Yes. That actually, maybe I shouldn't have said that. That's more incentive for you not to visit. But anywho, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, everybody. Until next week, Suns fan Cinderin signing out. Goodbye. We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah.